G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to have a look at the plane that never existed. No, we're not talking about the R2-Y2s, we're talking about that other plane that didn't exist, the Horten 229. Well, it did exist, but it's a little bit weird. So, as I understand it, the Horten 229, as a prototype, underwent several test trials, so therefore it did exist. However, in the form we see it in War Thunder, the Horten 229 V3 prototype, which is the one we have in-game, has cannons. And the Horten 229 was, as I understand it, never armed with any cannons. It was still undergoing testing, and I believe that one of the prototypes, it might have been the V2, actually crashed and died due to an engine failure, and the pilot died as well, I believe. Do correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but regardless, we have the Horten 229 in War Thunder at battle rating 7.0. 7.0 for me is a little bit low, and you'll see why in this game. Exactly, the Horten 229 is probably one of the best, if not the flat-out best 7.0 plane in the entire game, simply because it can do everything. How does it do everything? No one knows. This is some top German Second World War scientist stuff. It's crazy. So, the Horten 229 in-game in War Thunder is probably one of the best planes for its BR. It's a bit funny though. It's a bit weird to get used to. It's got a sort of high skill floor, but a very high skill ceiling. Well, I say that, but you can take it basically wherever you want. You can do pretty much whatever you want with it, provided that you stick to some sort of limits. Now, these limits are fairly flexible, actually. The limits are basically don't turn below 550, above 550, and don't try and stall with props because they'll outstall you. The Horten 229 is fantastic. It is one of the most underrated planes in the game, and everyone just looks over it because it's either to them a ground attacker, it's not in the tree where they want it to be, as in it's not a 262, it's not on the way to the CL or the MiG-19. It sort of just sits there at tier 5 after I believe the 410, and just sort of chills. Does nothing. It's not very, it doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't do anything special. Although the plane itself is far from. I think a lot of people just sort of unlock it and go, you know what? I have my Arados for CAS. I have my Narwhal for CAS in tanks. I'm going to ignore it. They go for the planes because they want to go straight to the CL-13 or the MiG-19. Just completely ignore it. I'll show you exactly why you should never ignore the Horten. Get out there and play it right now. It is fantastic. Basically what I'm doing is the typical thing. The usual thing by me, rushing in, seeing what I can find. If I don't find anything, I'll go for altitude then. But the Horten 229 for the most part is really, really good in this situation because it can almost counter the F-84s. You see, if an F-84 wants to go vertical with you, all you have to do is turn into it, and you'll have him. But if he wants to continue straight, then he can continue straight, and you can also continue straight. This plane being 7.0 also sees props, so one of the things that you have to consider as well is keeping your speed up in a jet. The Horten throws this out the window. You don't need speed, and you don't need altitude. You just turn. It's like a zero. It is actually the zero of jets. A lot of people have said that. They give that to the 163. But I would say it's the Horten. The Horten is just so ridiculous. It has such a light wing loading. It's made of wood, for God's sake. It has 2 engines and made of wood, single pilot, prototype. You look at the plane, it's all bare bones on the inside. They've gone for the minimal. And you can see my squad mate Smoggy is in a little bit of trouble here against the Yak-3U, and soon to join will be a Spitfire. I need to take care of these guys, and I'm in the perfect plane to do so. I sort of try and engage this Spitfire, but I can't over-G myself, otherwise I will rip the wings. They are only wood, and they will rip if you pull too much over 550. So one of the things you got to do if you're over 550 kilometers per hour is just put it into a slight climb. And you can see here I put it into a very steep climb to try and get around the Yak-3, and I just miraculously turn like a zero. This plane is crazy. I'm not even managing my speed. I'm just sort of turning, using a little bit of flaps, and I'm right behind the Yak 3U. He's in a multiple engagement situation, yes. And my other squad mate, Todd, I believe he ripped his wings because he was going too fast. So, can't expect much. It's only Todd, I love Todd. Best guy in the whole War Thunder community. If you see him in game, say hi for me. But, yeah, look at this. I'm just casually going vertical with a Mark 22 Spitfire. I've been turning, I've been doing whatever I want, and I just smack him with my 30 mils. Speaking of 30 mils, this has the Mark 103 30 mils. So, yeah, these are the better 30 mils. These are the long range, high velocity, high pen, best 30 mils in the entire game, if you ask me, apart from, of course, the MiG-19s. The low fire rate is a bit hard to get used to, and if you're firing at anything within your convergence range in the Horton, it can deny you the kill. But as you can see with the engagement of the Spitfire, what I should have done is I should have gone back a little bit, like got some distance between myself and the Spitfire. But realistically, I don't exactly need to. You can see this Meteor is going in for Smoggy, so I just sort of run around. I'm on his 6 again, and I'm just sort of lucky shot as I go to dodge the F-84. And here I go, turning with the F-84. I managed to basically reverse him as quickly as possible, go for the keyboard shot, but nothing. And I go for the other snipe, nothing again. Yak 3U is coming back. I don't want to push the head on because any damage to this plane, and it makes it really, really weird to fly. That's probably the major weak spot of the Horton. You damage it once, it'll be the weirdest plane you have ever flown. But as soon as you can evade some shots, the better. I would never take a head-on in the Horton if I can afford it. So, here I am, in a jet, made out of wood, out-turning a prop. I believe the Yak 3 is also made out of wood, or partially wood and metal. So, here we go, F-84. I managed to reverse him as well. He's gone into the vertical. It's an F-84B. He's bled all his speed, and I just managed to get away with everything in this goddamn plane. It is ridiculous. I'm stalling out. I'm doing whatever, and I'm just living to tell the tale with no consequences. I do not want to take a head-on with a Meteor, so I fire 2 bullets, quite literally 2 bullets. I managed to, through some negative Gs and some other maneuvers, I actually managed to still sit on his tail. The Horton is one of the easiest planes to fly when you get the hang of it, when you get some upgrades. It is easily one of the weirdest planes to fly, but it's certainly not the least rewarding. I would say it's one of the most. It's hilarious. And once you're done fighting planes, if you've got some B-29 going to space and you don't want to climb to space, you can strap on some armored targets, go for some tanks. It is so versatile. It is so ridiculously weird that it's honestly not deserving of 7.0. Back in 2015, the Horton was moved to 8.0, and it was doing okay. It was facing F2s, it was facing MiG-15s, and it was starting to struggle there because it had a somewhat 150 to 200 kilometer per hour speed deficit on the other planes. But if you put it at 7.7, I would say that's a better spot. Instead of, clubbing planes like this, machine gun Bearcats, even the regular Bearcat, some Spitfires can't keep with this plane. It's crazy. The only real way to fight the Horton 229 is to get above it and to keep energy on it. And that's really, really hard in a jet, let alone in a prop. Although I will say certain planes or certain props are really, really good at keeping their energy. You can't really make it overshoot either. This plane just controls its speed so well. You can see me here in this dogfight with the P-51. I'm throwing the plane around. I'm using mostly my keyboard controls just because it's a lot more simple and a lot more straightforward. I can't get guns on him. I can't get guns on this P-51, but that doesn't really matter because all I need to do is sit on my air brake, sit on my flaps, and I'm pretty much golden. There's not a whole lot this P-51 can do. He's just sort of bleeding speed. I'm going to get my ace here in a second, and there's nothing he can do about it. There's no chance of me overshooting because I'm just sitting on my air brake. There's no chance of me not outturning him because I accelerate fast enough and I accelerate well enough to sort of be in a position where I could sit behind this guy all day until we both run out of fuel. And then he crashes in the water. There goes my ace. But nonetheless, this is easily the weirdest game of Horton 229 I've ever had playing this game. This is the weirdest game I've ever seen playing the Horton 229. I managed to turn with everything and get away with it. This plane is so dirty that after this match I had to go and take a damn shower. This plane needs to be at 7.7 at least, because it's just... something needs to be a weak spot. It can't be able to turn and have such a low wing loading in general, have a decent acceleration, and be able to catch certain things like props. You know, you should be able to... It should face higher competition, stiffer competition. Anyway, ladies and gents, hope you enjoyed. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.